Come on, 49 faithful, let's get it.
Because it's 49 in mine.
We gotta do this one time for the Empire.
It's 49 in mine. It's 49 in mine.
We gotta get that brick by brick real quick.
49 in mine.
Yeah. Yo, we can't listen to them haters, man.
49 in mine.
We from the Bay.
49 in mine.
We them San Francisco 49ers.
49 in mine.
We got that red and gold blood inside us.
49 in mine.
Oh yeah, freak out, yeah, I'm looking right into the video scope, and this is Macho Man, #1 Macho Man impersonator, past, present, future, yeah, and I'm here to tell you, you are watching 49er Minded with Bashar, yeah, the cream of the crop, dig it?
What is up, everybody? I am so happy that you guys are here. I'm elated because we're gonna have an amazing episode coming at you right now. And before I bring my guests on, let me just say what's up to a couple of the chatters really quick. Got a whole bunch of people in here. We got Bay Area Baller 18. We got Ryan for No Border Sports. We have CG Ruthless Sports. Who else is in here? 49ers Chanel, Kenny of the Pacific Northwest. And this guy needs no introduction, guys. If you guys have followed the 49ers, especially if you live in the Bay Area and follow the 49ers through Bay Area, or some people even follow the podcasts and everything on the internet now, even people that don't even live in this country. And this guy I'm bringing on is none other than Larry Krueger, guys. So I'm going to bring him on right now. How's it going, Larry?
What's up? What's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, I really, really appreciate it. I know you're a busy family man, and you're really busy with your stream lately, guys. And if you guys aren't aware, this guy has an up-and-coming YouTube channel that's growing like a weed. I put the description. I put all the links in the description box, guys. So definitely subscribe to his channel. Check him out. And I'm just excited that you're here, man. How you feeling today?
Man, I'm feeling good. Just spent the afternoon in Northern California. Just watch my kid play a little afternoon baseball doubleheader today. Just, a good, enjoyable Saturday.
Ooh, did he win?
No, they got swept in the doubleheader.
Poor kid. Well, at least you were there for moral support. Yeah. Let me say what's up to our good friend 49ers First Takes. Aaron says, what's up, fellas? Definitely hit him up on YouTube, subscribe to his channel. But weren't for him, I wouldn't be having him Larry on right here. And he has a great channel in itself. So David McNews here says, go 49ers. Let's not talk Jimmy today, please. I don't know if you saw it, Larry, but me and Aaron, I had Aaron on yesterday, and it was just like a 30-minute Jimmy G bitch fest.
Are you guys want Jimmy? Everybody wants Jimmy's situation to become resolved, but are you advocating for his return or for his departure?
Oh, no, for his departure. When I mean bitch fest, I want him out of here. So yeah. So we got Dynamite Dave here. I think I know who that guy is. I think he's from New Jersey, if I stand corrected. But yeah, man, let's dive right into it, guys. So usually I do read a lot of comments. Now in between, I'll pop up some questions, but I got a whole lot of questions for Larry, and we're gonna make this special. So we're gonna jump right into it right now. So Larry, I followed you on your KMBR days, probably let's say circa 2009, more or less when you made your return. I do remember you when you were initially there, but and I understand at one point in your career you were an NFL scout, but let's rewind. You were at the high school St. Ignatius in San Francisco, and did you play football there, or?
Yep.
Okay. So what position did you play, and what got you into football in general?
I started off at quarterback, and then went to tight end, defensive tackle. Ultimately, I think I probably played the most at defensive end. What got me into it? I played everything, right? I played baseball, I played basketball, I played soccer. I mean, as a kid growing up, and I got to high school, and football was the first sport freshman year, and so you know what, I tried out and played. And then I quit football, played a little basketball, then played a little lacrosse, and then wound up playing lacrosse in college at Sac State. So
Oh, okay, yeah, I saw that on
played
your
a
bio
bunch
that
of
you went to
sports.
Sac State. You're a
Yeah.
Sac State Hornet. Don't live too far. I'm over in Roseville, but I grew up in the Bay Area. But growing up in San Francisco, were you a 49er fan growing up, or
Oh,
you were never?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So it's good
yeah.
because I know people who cover the 49ers. It's kind of like almost a taboo thing to say that they're a 49er fan because almost like people won't take them seriously or they fear that they won't be objective. But I think there's a balance that you can have, and even I can have as well, even though I'm not a paid media member or anything like that. But I don't want to sound like a big time homer up here either, you know.
I mean, it's funny. It depends what kind of media you're doing. As somebody who's done talk shows, you're an editorialist. You're not really, supposed to be objective. You're supposed to just have an opinion. So I don't even try to pretend I'm objective. I'm pro Niners for sure. But I'm also, it doesn't, just because I'm pro Niners doesn't mean that I won't rip the tar out of them if I don't like the moves they make or if I didn't like the game plan. I mean, I like Kyle Shanahan. We had him on the show all the time this year, once a week. When they had the Trey Lance first debut and they ran him 16 times and, 7 or 8 of those were design quarterback runs, I thought it was a horrendous game plan, and I said so. And then when we had Lynch on, I asked him about it, told him I thought it was a terrible game plan. Heck, 2 weeks later, when we had Shanahan on, I asked him again about it because I just thought it was such a horrendous game plan. But so that's kind of me. I mean, I'm rooting for the Niners, but I'll probably be as critical of them as anybody.
I love that. I want to go back and catch those because that was pretty ballsy, and I give you a lot of respect for doing that. There's a lot of people out there who wouldn't have. They may feel it, they may think it, but they may feel like they're crossing and stepping over the boundary if they do so. So shout out to you, and that's awesome that hey, you're telling the head coach and the GM. You're telling if they had. I love Trey Lance. The whole idea of us bringing him in, and I'm excited about him just like everybody else. But let's not go back to the days of Bronco Nagurski. I mean, we're
Right.
yeah, and I myself, I've mentioned this on past streams, like the way they ran Debo in that last playoff game, or in general, sometimes they run him up the defense like he's Jerome Bettis or something. Like, sure, I love the way he runs on the edges, but why run him up the middle on D tackles? I don't get that at all with your star wide receiver.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I would have liked to have seen Debo touch it inside or outside in the final 13 minutes of the game
Yeah.
as well. And it's like, who knows? Maybe they would have won if they got their best player of the football in the final, I don't know, 13 minutes of the game. Maybe that, as you can tell, still a little bitter.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with you. So I got a couple of more questions for you, more so on the personal side. So you did grow up as a 49er fan. Do you remember your first game that you went to?
I do. My dad took me to a Niners-Bears game in the 70s. We were in the first row of the upper deck reserved, and I had to keep like standing up and walking up to the rail because, as a little kid, you couldn't see if people were walking by. But yeah, I do remember that. In fact, I can remember as a kid, many, many days going to church with the family on a Sunday, coming home, and the phone would ring with people, hey, I've got an extra ticket to the game. Do you want to go? I mean, the Niners were an easy ticket to get until 1981.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. And I grew up in a Catholic family as well. There was always that struggle, on those church days, and you want to watch the Niners. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to hit up the morning mass so I could catch that afternoon game.
Right, exactly.
I know how that is. Yeah, I went to a Catholic school as well. Actually, you went to a Jesuit school, and believe it or not, I'm from the Middle East. I was born in Baghdad, Iraq, but my dad actually went to in Iraq, out of all places in Baghdad. He went to a Jesuit high school as well. Believe it or not. So
wow.
yeah, so a lot
Jesuits,
of people
they're good educators and good fundraisers. They raise money for sure.
Yeah, good buddy of mine's a teacher over at the Sacramento Jesuit High School as well, where JT O'Sullivan played, actually.
Yeah, my brother lives in Natomas, and he sent his oldest son there, and now his younger son's going there.
Oh, okay, so the younger son probably knows who my friend is, and he's a teacher. His name's Lawrence. Really good dude. I got him into watching the 49ers. Like, he didn't know anything about football, and I got him to watching the games with me and my friends. So really good dude. So yeah, that's cool, man. You went to games. Now, was your first game at Kezar or Candlestick? I don't want to date you or anything to be a mean guy, but
the Niners moved to Candlestick in 1972. I was born in 1970. So
okay. I didn't want to be mean like that.
The first game I went to was probably 76, 77.
Okay, cool.
I do remember the Niners at that time. They had the Gold Rush defense with Cedric Hardman, Cleveland Elam, Tommy Hart, and Jimmy Webb. It was a really great defensive line that put a ton of heat on the quarterback. That was probably the highlight of the Niners in the 70s was the defensive front.
Okay, yeah, Cedric Hardman's a name I've definitely read about because I started watching the Niners. It's funny because I currently live in Roseville now, which is right by Rockland, and I was going to school in elementary school when I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. Like the 49ers had just won the Super Bowl with the Miami Dolphins. But keep in mind, having foreign parents, you're not going to be influenced to watch football. You're going to, later in life, it kind of rubs off on you from your friends in school. So everybody's talking about the Niners win the Super Bowl. And I was like, what? Who are these 49ers? Because I was too busy watching wrestling and cartoons. And, lo and behold, I find out that the 49ers were practicing over in, Sierra College.
Yeah.
Yeah, right by where I live. And then at that point, I kind of started hearing about it. And the bug bit me late, but I definitely love hearing about these, classic players. And, I try my best to read up on it. Let me see what's up to Charlie Tuna. We haven't seen this guy in a while. Former YouTube content creator, big, huge Niner fan. Said, deadass, I had a dream we win the Super Bowl and Jimmy G was quarterback one, laughing my ass off. That's a good
definitely
joke,
a dream, right?
Oh, yeah. Hey, dreams are free, right? So let's see. So we got some more questions lined up for you, Larry. Oh, this is a little random question that I ask. It's a non-football question, but I throw this question out there because I'm a big pizza aficionado. On my Instagram page and on my Twitter, sometimes I throw up pictures of my pizza oven of whatever I'm cooking. It's been a while now. It's Lent. I'm not really cooking pizza, but in terms of pizza, though, are you more of a New York pizza guy or are you more for the Chicago deep dish slice?
Well, my mom is from Chicago, so I would probably be more partial to a Chicago deep dish pizza than the New York flat pizza. But typically I like thicker crust and lots of toppings. My ideal pie would be like sausage, pepperoni, onions, peppers, mushrooms, maybe a few olives.
I assume you're a big fan of Zachary's then, right?
I do like Zachary's. We just had that the other day.
Yeah, I agree. So I mentioned I live in Roseville now, but when I was about age 9, I moved to the Bay Area. So I lived in Pinole and San Jose. So I know all about the East Bay and the South Bay. And now I'm back up in North Cali. Let me say what's up to Forever Faithful Broadcast. His name's Brandon Ferrigno, good guy. He says, tell him Larry Italian way. Like that. Yeah, really good dude. I've been on his podcast before. Got some more questions for you. So I told you beforehand, like, hey, I used to do stand-up comedy, and this show, we do the heavy football talk here, but there's always laughs in between, and I just think it just makes it for a better show. And I know you worked with Gary Radnich, and I enjoyed watching you guys when they used to do the simulcast on TV, on cable television.
Yeah,
enjoyed listening to you guys. I think you guys were an excellent duo. You had excellent takes on sports, on all kinds of sports, not just football, and a lot of comedy in between. Like, do you remember any really funny moment that stands out when you worked with Gary Radnich?
Many. There's too many to count for sure. I mean, we just had a lot of fun. We just always had a lot of fun. And, we had a lot of fun working with Kate Scott. We had her on the YouTube this week. But yeah, we just had a lot of fun. I mean, as far as anything that really stood out. I mean, there was one morning, Kate and I were going back and forth and we started yelling at each other and we were really disagreeing. It got kind of heated and Gary's like, just grabs hold of the show and just starts yelling, why don't you both shut up? It was funny. It was funny.
I remember they used to always play a soundbite of Gary. I don't know what sparked him to do it, but just listening to the show from time to time, Gary would have his outbursts. I just remember they used to always play this one soundbite over and over again on the soundboard. Who does that? I just remember that.
Who has time?
Yeah. I remember one time some guy called in and said, oh yeah, I smoke weed all the time. He was a big weed advocate. And Gary Reddish was like, that's why you're so stupid, because you keep smoking marijuana. Gary Reddish did not care, man. If you still talk to the guy, give him my regards. You won't know who I am, but I'm just a big fan, I never got to meet him.
He's got lots and lots of fans for sure.
Yeah. I said what's up to him from a really far distance once at a Warriors fan event. He answered one of my questions, so it was kind of cool. But yeah, so you said you played lacrosse, but at one point in life, you stumbled into becoming a CFL scout, an NFL scout. How did your whole scouting journey start?
Well, it's interesting. I was going to Sac State for college, and a guy who was a friend of mine, dad happened to coach the football team, and I was just watching football at his house, and his dad was like, "Hey, you kind of know the game," and I said, "I appreciate it." He's like, "I coach for Sac State," and he's like, "Why don't you help me do some recruiting?" And I did, and I got to know him. Then he told me to take his coaching of football class. I did, and at the end of the semester, he said he was going to the Canadian Football League, and that if I wanted to go with him, that he wanted to recommend me to the head coach for a job on their coaching staff. And so I was, obviously I was very grateful. I was still a senior in college. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I interviewed with Kay Stevenson, and he said, "Hey, we have a quality control coach / scouting position on this team, and it's not going to pay a whole lot, but you'll be around NFL coaches. And if you want to coach in the NFL, this is probably a great idea for you." And I remember just going to my dad saying, "Hey, Dad, what should I do?" I had a couple different offers to work and make a little bit more money. And he said, "No, if you think this is good, go with it, and work your ass off and try to make the most of it." So I did, and worked there. I never knew how hard coaches worked until I thought I was really working hard, because I would get there at like 7 a.m. and I would leave at like 7 p.m. Figure out that's a huge long day, only to find out that the rest of the staff was getting there at 5 a.m. and working till midnight. So it was like my first introduction into, how hard pro football coaches work. And then at the end of the year, one of the coaches left to go to the Arizona Cardinals, and he brought me with him and let me do some college scouting and some pro personnel evaluation as well. So that's kind of how I got into it.
That's awesome, man. And it's funny because year in and year out, when there's a coaching vacancy open up for the 49ers, and 49er fans are like, they should hire Ronnie Lott to coach the DBs, or they should hire Joe Stady to coach the offensive line, and the Jerry Rice should coach the receivers. No, Joe Montana should be the quarterback coach to coach Trey Lance. And I've never worked in the coaching field, but I just keep hearing over and over again that coaching is taxing and it's hard and so many hours. But I worked in the car business at one point, and we used to do bell-to-bell shifts. We're like 12-hour shifts, obviously, from time to time. And that kind of reminded me of what you were telling me, but it's even more strenuous than I thought after what you were just telling me, from 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
They work. That is nuts.
These guys work 100-hour weeks. Sometimes they'll work 80, 90-hour weeks out of season. So, it's your family pays a price for sure if you're coaching in the NFL.
Yeah. Now, were there any NFL hopefuls that you ran across in the CFL by any chance? Or
yeah, there were a number. Usually in the NFL, NFL game, CFL game, they're a little different. Where you would see players really improve in the Canadian game was at wide receiver and defensive back, because it's such a passing league. So there were several players that played in the Canadian League that went on and played in the NFL. Jeff Garcia was a player that I scouted early on. He played for Calgary. He was the third string quarterback to Doug Flutie. Mike Oliphant, played at, I think, Puget Sound. He played with the Washington Redskins.
Seahawks. Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah. He was on the Gold Miners. David Archer, who played in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons, was the starting quarterback. Kerwin Bell, who was the quarterback for the Florida Gators, was the backup quarterback. There were a number of guys who played in the NFL and also played in the Canadian League. So it was fun. It was a great experience.
When you dropped some of those names, it was taking me back to the WLAF. Remember that league? Remember some of those guys? Yeah, they used to call the W laugh. Like,
yeah.
That was fun. I used to watch the games from time to time because it was like, hey, football in the off season, football in the off season. Why not? I'm just a football junkie, just like we all are.
Yeah.
It's interesting with the CFL too, because I remember back in the day they used to go on and on about how Warren Moon played there, and he developed his game. And poor Warren Moon, he should have been in the NFL right off the bat. I'm sorry. Jeff Garcia, they had some doubts. I remember him at San Jose State. My brother, God rest his soul, was a student at San Jose State when Jeff Garcia was just finishing off his playing career over there. And I remember Bill Walsh, had his eye on Garcia, and Garcia was pretty nice with the Niners, of course. Doug Flutie was from there. I met him before. Really great guy. Joe Theismann played there. I met him. Great guy. And I didn't know that Andre Rison played there. I just found this out yesterday. And Cameron Wake both played there as well.
Yeah, Cameron Wake was a terrific pass rusher. He was a little bit after I was already out of there by the time Wake was in the league. Marcus Allen's brother, Damon Allen, was the quarterback at Calgary. He was a terrific player in his own right. So yeah, the Canadian League, it was an interesting league for sure. The great part about the secondary football leagues is that the players really love to play. And so, you never have to motivate them, and you never have to, in any way kind of kickstart them. These guys are usually pretty self-motivated because, that's why they're playing in a secondary league, or that's not why they're playing in a secondary league, but that's why they continue to play despite not making the NFL, because they truly love the sport.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna get into another question, but really quick, I found an interesting question from Ryan from No Border Sports. We just started doing a hip hop show. I never thought I'd do a hip hop show, but he got me into it. We did our first episode. Later tonight at 10 o'clock, we're gonna do one on this. We're gonna flip flop between his channel and my channel and do one on here. But anyways, No Border Sports. Ryan says, does sports radio have trends that come back around like fashion does?
Well, it's funny. There definitely are trends. And a lot of it is, that for a while it was like one man radio. And if you think about it, like, some of the guys who did, were in the genre early on, guys like Jim Rome or JT the Brick, there was a thing that for a while where the callers would almost like try to copy the host cadence. And so they would take calls and these people would come on and try to be Jim Rome or try to be JT the Brick. That came and went. Then there was a great period of time where it was a lot of solo radio shows. And then they realized that, it sounds more organic when it's two people talking back and forth. So yeah, there are always going to be changes in the genre. There's always going to be changes in how things are done. Now with social media and Twitter and all the texting and all the different possible ways to communicate, it almost is like you need somebody to just kind of handle all the different, portals of communication, because otherwise, I mean, seriously, you could be, you're getting an endless number of tweets, texts, emails, if you believe it or not, you can still get people communicating via email. So there's just there's a lot of different ways to communicate. So, you just have to figure out where your audience feels most comfortable and make sure that you're, if they're sending you questions and comments, make sure you're reading them.
There you go, Ryan. You got your answer. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember very well on the Jim Rome show when people used to call in and do their whole shtick and try to talk like Jim Rome. I used to imitate his voice, but I'm not going to try to do it now. That guy was something else. And obviously when the name Jim Rome comes up, you think of Jim Everett, right?
Exactly. Challenging Jim Everett to a fight.
That could have ended up so much worse. I mean, Jim Rome should thank his lucky stars. I could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Back to CFL.
Hey,
really
if you
quick.
Did it today, you'd probably get fired.
Yeah.
Probably get fired.
Oh yeah, exactly. One more thing about the CFL. One player that shocked the living daylights out of me, and it irritated the living daylights out of me because I'm a 49ers fan. But shout out to him for having a good career and being an excellent cornerback was Brandon Browner. I would never guess that the CFL would produce such a player like him, man. Such a physical stud, physical freak.
Well, think about it. How do you get better at anything? Through reps. Well, what do you have in the CFL that you don't have in the NFL? It's 3-down football instead of 4-down football. So typically it's a passing league, and there's a lot more passing in that league. So in a pass-heavy league with spread formations, that usually means that the two people, the two positions where you really see improvement are cornerback and wide receiver. Because if you run, let's say the average NFL wide receiver runs X number of patterns, in the CFL, you're running a lot more patterns. So the wider field puts a premium on your ability to catch the ball and your ball skills, because many times you're open, and it's just a matter of understanding the angles. So, it is interesting, but I would say just from being in that league, the wide receivers and the corners are the ones that you really got to study, because you'll find guys who can play in the NFL who play wide receiver or play corner. They have the measurables. They go to Canada. They get tons of reps, and they improve. Browner's one of them.
And question, is there anything about Canada that you miss? And obviously you don't miss the weather, right?
Yeah. Anything about Canada that I miss? I mean, just just how carefree I was in those days. I mean, this is before I was married, before I had kids. I had a lot of time to just watch film, study players, and drink beers, so to speak. And I did enjoy traveling, though.
When you say drink beers, it took me back to that Canadian movie, comedy movie, Strange Brew.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the 49er talk. And we got people saying some crazy stuff in the comments. I don't know if you're catching what people are saying, but it's pretty nuts. We got this guy right here. Well, first thing he said, Prius game. He's the biggest Jimmy support I've ever seen. He's always freaking to my channel. He says, cut Trey Lance, bro. And then he said, the fans owe Jimmy G an apology for this mistreatment. That's pretty out there. But
I mean,
go ahead.
I don't know. Oh, thank you, Mr. Garoppolo. It's like, is he related to Jimmy? I mean, I like Jimmy, but the 49ers under Jimmy Garoppolo did not play particularly well in some of the biggest games that he suited up, for the 49ers. And so, who are you going to blame that on? I mean, so I like Jimmy. I think he's a good guy. I always felt like he was the same guy every time I interviewed him, but he's, as far as quarterbacking, he's no more than middle of the pack at best.
Now, do you think now you're saying Jimmy's a good guy, but some 49er, a segment of the 49er fans have this resentment, and I'm one of them. And Aaron 49er first takes and I were kind of saying the same thing. We kind of feel like Don Yee came up with some plan to sift the 49ers with Jimmy G delaying his surgery. I don't know. That just rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, I mean, I don't want to push back too hard on you on that theory, but that's preposterous. I mean, here's why. Do you think Jimmy G cares about Jimmy G or about the Niners? He cares about Jimmy G. So he's not going to delay that surgery to somehow screw them over, when he's got to get ready to play a season. I just think that he was hoping to avoid the surgery, and the surgery was like a last resort. And then he had to have the surgery because the last thing he wanted to do was have the surgery where he would miss camp and miss the preseason and miss the regular season. So he delayed it as long as he could. And then ultimately decided to have the surgery. But I don't, I've heard a number of people suggest that, he did that to screw the Niners. Well, you know what? He's screwing himself as well, because I would imagine the way he signed off at the end of the year saying that he'd like a fresh start, that he would actually, like a fresh start. And it's going to be hard for them to get him onto his next team until he probably can prove that he's healthy. So I definitely don't agree with the notion that he delayed the surgery intentionally to screw them. I don't buy that.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying with that. And in any case, it was to his advantage. I mean, because say, for example, worst case scenario, the 49ers have to cut him and release him because they weren't able to trade him. He loses out on that big salary because if he gets cut or released, they're going to have to work up a new contract for him. So, and that would obviously be less than what he's making now. But
I think no matter, I'd be shocked if Jimmy Garoppolo plays for anybody this year at the price tag that he's at currently. I don't think there's a team in the NFL that will take him at that price tag. There's going to be he's going to play for somebody this year, but they're going to renegotiate that deal immediately, and he's not going to play for $25 million or $27 million or whatever it's supposed to be.
So more so in terms of the play on the field, or partially about his trade stock, because I know I saw you and Grant Cohn going over this, and because people will always bring up, like you guys were saying about the whole he wins thing. Yeah, if he wins so much and it makes him so valuable, why aren't these other teams up for trading for him? I mean, and it's kind of a slap in the face to Jimmy G because Mariota hasn't started a game. I mean, he hasn't been an NFL starter since 2019. Matt Ryan's at the tail end of his career. Mitch Trubisky was supposed to be, a flame out of the NFL, and all those dominoes have fallen before Jimmy G. And it's almost like Jimmy G's, a lot of people are saying this, like Jimmy G's like that one kid who gets picked last, and so it's just like you said, you think he might not even play this year. It's getting that bad,
Well, he's going to play for sure, but I mean, this whole I just said to Grant, it's time for us to bury that stat because why use a stat if it's not revealing? People use that stat like it's the mic drop. Like, yeah, he throws picks and yeah, he makes mistakes, but look at that record. Bottom line, that's the record. End of discussion. He's awesome or whatever. No. End of the discussion is he was out there for anybody to have this year in a trade, and no general manager basically has come forward. So if there's any bottom line on Jimmy G, it's the silence that's being spoken from other NFL GMs that don't want him at $25 million. They wouldn't touch that with, they'd stay as far away from that as they possibly can. Part of it's due to his price tag. Part of it's due to his inconsistency. So to me, what speaks far louder than the Niners record with and without him is the record of the number of general managers who could have had him and bypassed him this year. That really is defining, because that really tells you how the guys who run this sport feel about Jimmy Garoppolo as a quarterback talent.
Yeah, when you said that bottom line thing and the mic drop, it almost reminded me of Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. It's kind of that's how I feel that the Jimmy camp and the Jimmy fan base is acting now. That was a great way of putting it. Yeah, so I mentioned those quarterbacks. Now, I think when Jeremy Fowler put out that report, that it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Like, everybody's pretty much saying that Trey Lance has been reassured that he's the QB1 right now, and then lo and behold, a few days later, a picture drops. You probably saw the picture that was circulating. Kyle Shanahan hanging out with Trey Lance and some brand new rapper that I heard of. I'm supposed to be his hip hop guy, but I don't know who the new rappers are. Some guy named 24K. And I don't know if you saw the picture. Did you see that picture where they were all hanging out together? Okay. So, that kind of coincides with, Trey Lance being QB1. These guys are hanging out, and Trey Lance probably has been told, like, in his ear, like, hey, you're our guy. So let me ask you this about Trey. First things first, before I get to the other question, this just reminded me. What was your reaction to, with the whole Trey and Jimmy talk when Joe Montana dropped his 2 cents about, where the 49ers should go with Trey Lance and Jimmy G? How did you respond to that?
Well, I mean, he's not in the facility every day, but he basically made it sound like he's talked to 49er players who have suggested to him that Trey's not ready. Now, he didn't say who he spoke to, but that was the implication, right? That he spoke to Niner players who somebody told him that Trey wasn't ready. So, I mean, it's possible that's the case. It's also possible that person spoke but doesn't really represent how the coaching staff or the majority of the players actually feel. Could just be somebody who feels that way that said that to Joe. I don't think Joe would have said that unless some player actually did come out and say that Trey wasn't ready. But you know what? Players say a lot of things. The one thing you get when you get to work in an organization, and players say a lot of things. They say a lot of things. And some you should listen to, and some you should go in one ear and out the other. So I don't put tons of credence in the random isolated report of player X says that Trey's not ready, because we have no idea who that player is or what that player's agenda really is at the end of the day. But I did notice it, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I when I saw it too, it just looked awkward. I'm not sure if you took note of Joe Montana's facial expressions when he was saying and how nervous he looked. It was just a strange, awkward looking interview. But hey, Joe's the GOAT at the end of the day. He won all these Super Bowls for us, so it's almost like he can say whatever he wants. There's a really funny in the comment. I have to put this up. Sorry, guys. I know it's a little off topic, but it just made me laugh. Charlie Tuna says Bashar's pizzas are better than Jimmy G's Subway sandwiches. Hey, man, I'm not going to argue with that. They are better. I've had both. Hey, if you're ever in Roseville and you visit your brother in the Thomas or whatever, you're more than welcome to come over, and I'll cook up some pizzas in the backyard. So just throwing that out there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Oh, we got a new YouTuber. This guy's only 15 years old, actually. He loves the 49ers. Says, "What's up, faithful Cardcast? I subscribed to your page just the other day. I saw you on 906. It's his channel." Okay, so as an NFL scout, I want to hear your perspective of Trey Lance going into before the draft and then after what you saw on the field this year. Just give me your scouting perspective on Trey Lance if you can.
Um, I really liked the prospect going into the draft. You know why? Because there's a number of components. There's the physical component, and I thought there's no doubt this kid 6'4", 225 pounds, athletic. He fits the physical profile. Then there's the mental profile, and I don't think there's any doubt that he fits the mental profile. Then there's the does he love the process of playing professional football? And from the people that I know, and I do know some road scouts who covered that part of the country, who said absolutely, this kid loves the process of football. And so right then and there, it's like if you're the word coming out of North Dakota State, he was the hardest working guy on the team. When you have the physical profile, the mental profile, you love the process of football, and you work hard. To me, that's somebody that I want to invest in. So I liked Zach Wilson, and I liked several of the quarterbacks in the draft, but to me, Lance is one of the highest rated prospects I've seen, and after watching him this year, there's no doubt that he needs to be coached up. There's no doubt that he needs reps, mental and physical reps. But I think what I really got out of this year was the improvement that he showed from the Arizona game to the Houston game was monumental. And I think he'll show equal improvement going into next year. So I've got nothing but good thoughts about Trey Lance. Now, he does throw with a lot of arm speed. And right now, his mechanics on the spiral, which is a lot about his hand placement on the ball, need to be cleaned up. If you're going to throw a wobbly pass and then you throw it with a ton of arm speed, you're going to have a high speed wobble type pass. And that is probably the hardest pass for a receiver to catch. So I want to see some improvements in his ball. But as far as, do I think he's going to be successful? Yeah, I do. I really think he's going to be successful.
And how often do you see a player of his physical stature, a player with his ceiling, with that type of work ethic? It doesn't happen every day, right?
He reminds me a lot of Mahomes. Raw talent, needs to be coached up, needs to be put into a good system, needs to be surrounded with some good talent, but has rare physical traits. And he reminds me a lot of Mahomes too, in that when he moves in the pocket, he's moving to find a opening so he can throw it. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Michael Vick. He's not, I'm going to take off and run it. I'm going to move within the pocket to buy myself more time so I can make big plays with my arm down the field. So in that way, he reminds me an awful lot of Mahomes.
And the way he stands in the pocket in terms of seeing his body movement and the way he just, I see a lot of Watson in him too. Just when I stand and watch him in the pocket, I think they have very similar movements in terms of moving side to side. And I'm excited about Trey Lance. I really am. I know that, he, for some reason, he's facing some backlash. I just hope he's able to channel that and have it, drive him to work harder and prove people wrong. That could have a reverse effect on you. I get it. It could work both ways, and I know people were talking about Trey Lance throwing rockets on short passes when he shouldn't be. So hopefully all that gets fixed. I got to compliment the chat. I got to say what's up to this guy real quick. He says he likes my 49ers hat. Shout out to SG Sports Talk channel. Chardal, he's been on Grant Cohn phone a whole bunch of times. So shout out to you, bro. Yeah, and one thing with Trey Lance is like, I wanted to ask you this because I notice a lot of times they'll mention Trey Lance is working with so-and-so as a quarterback coach. And I think I've heard about 3 names dropped as a QB coach that he's working with. Could that be almost a bad thing if you're working with too many quarterback coaches? You might have people telling you different things. And because I'm not that familiar with the quarterback position in that regard, but maybe you might know.
A lot of times these coaches are working on different things. He's working with Tom House on his motion. He's working with Coach Quincy Avery. I know he's worked with Avery. He's worked with Beck. I don't really find. It potentially could be a red flag, but in this case, I don't believe it is. I just think that he's really seeking out the best, and John Beck and Quincy Avery and Tom House are really right there, top tier of quarterback gurus and coaches. And there's no doubt he needs some mechanical things smoothed out. He needs to improve. Kyle Shanahan's an outstanding play caller, but is he equipped to really develop Trey Lance? Well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We really don't know that about Kyle. So the fact that Trey has other quarterback gurus to work with in the offseason and to do his reps with and to utilize to improve, I think is a positive.
And speaking of quarterback coaches, somebody brought up a question in the chat, and it's relevant to what we're talking about. 49ers throwback, good buddy of mine on Twitter, actually. Welcome to the show. He says, your thoughts on Brian Griese, new QB coach?
Well, he's never coached quarterbacks. He played quarterback. One, it'll be interesting. I mean, he's going from TV where you work a little bit to coaching where you work endlessly. But when I first heard it, I thought maybe that means Tom Brady's going to come here because they were college teammates at Michigan, and I thought that may indicate that they had some interest in bringing Brady back. So I really don't know how to read that other than, he has no experience and yet he's got a great resume as a NFL quarterback. I'm sure he can coach the position since he played the position, but he also has no pro experience coaching. So it's kind of a wait and see. I don't think anybody really knows until, he actually coaches a season, how good of a coach he'll be.
Yeah, I was actually watching. I don't know if you've ever caught JT O'Sullivan's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I think Quarterback School or Quarterback University has some name like that. But it's a great YouTube channel, by the way. If you guys haven't checked it out, you need to. And he had this one whole segment where he was talking about what do NFL quarterback coaches do, and a lot of people have this huge misconception that an NFL quarterback coach on a team is going to sit there and teach mechanics the whole time. And from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, it's more so about game planning and drawing up and telling the quarterback, hey, these are the type of reads that you're going to have to make during this particular game. And so, maybe Brian Griese took a lot of mental notes throughout his NFL career from his quarterback coaches that he worked with. So maybe he can possibly jump up to the next level.
It's everything. It's understanding what the defense is giving you, understanding, when to take what the defense is giving you and when to take what you need from the defense, understanding, how to set protections, all the nuances. There's ridiculous numbers of nuances when it comes to playing this position. So it could be anything. It could be anything from, understanding play sequencing to understanding how to attack a cover three to understanding, what the coaching point is on every play. I mean, ultimately the quarterback's he's got to be so in tune with every position on the field that under pressure, he's got to be able to look over the field, survey it pre-snap and say, hey, by the way, you're on the wrong side of the formation. This play is not going anywhere unless you're lined up correctly. So getting your guys lined up correctly, getting them in and out of the right play at the line of scrimmage, understanding where you're going with the football pre-snap, understanding what defenses are trying to do to you and how they're trying to defend you. These are all nuances to playing quarterback. So there's no question that a good quarterback coach is worth his weight in gold.
Yeah, love the way you put it, man. And speaking of the topic of Trey Lance being our quarterback, one reason why I've kind of been frustrated along with my 49er fan friends, what obviously you're saying Jimmy didn't do that to us on purpose. I get it as far as the 49er fans go, but at the end of the day, I felt like we are kind of handcuffed financially in free agency, and we lost Laken Tomlinson as a pretty good left guard who didn't miss games. And I'm thinking, hey, why not sign some offensive linemen? And why can't we get anybody? And why aren't we picking guys up? And it's almost like we're going to be relying on whoever we draft in this upcoming draft to possibly fill those holes, or Banks and Jaylen Brown and then McKivitz possibly, and the McGlinchey thing's a huge question mark too. So, what's your assessment on the whole O-line situation, and how are we going to protect this important investment in Trey Lance?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that, protecting Trey is probably the number one goal of this year. And what do they have? They got a great left tackle, and they got a question mark at left guard. They got a question mark at center. They got a question mark at right guard. They got a question mark at right tackle. So they're going to have to find some answers to these questions. Is McGlinchey's, torn quad, is it going to be a recurring thing, or is he recovered? Can Brunskill stand up and play right guard? Is Aaron Banks good enough to slide in at left guard? What are you going to do with Jalen Moore? Is Alex Mack, up for playing another season, or is he going to retire? Do you have a starter? Do you look at Moore and Banks as starters, or are they, did you feel like you swung and missed there? I mean, they were drafted pretty high, and I thought Moore looked great in the preseason, but the truth be told, Banks was only up 2 times all year and never saw the field. So, in some ways, it feels like there's a disconnect between the Niner scouts and the Niner O-line coach from this year. Their young talent didn't see the field, and if they improved, none of us would know anything about it because we never saw him on the field playing. Jalen Moore couldn't beat out Tom Compton at the end of the year, and Aaron Banks never got any run all year. There's never an opportunity to give him any run. So if Lynch has insisted that Moore and Banks can really play, and they're both going to be outstanding NFL offensive linemen. So if that's the case, and that's the premise, then maybe they don't need an offensive lineman. Maybe one offensive lineman, whether that be in free agency or the draft, would fill their needs. But if Banks is a bust, if Moore can't be depended on, if these guys have no future in the NFL, then maybe offensive line becomes their number one priority going into the draft.
Yeah, and I did a whole bunch of mock drafts myself, and I'll be honest, I did so many mock drafts, it's to the point where all those offensive line names are just like a huge blur to me. I just hope they pick whoever they pick is going to be ready to play, perhaps, because it looks like we're going to need it. Somebody just threw a funny comment. Let's acknowledge it really quick. He says Bashar for GM. Jimmy G would already been traded if Bashar was a GM. Lynch messed up not trading Jimmy G. No, I could never be an NFL GM. But shout out to Roberto, really good kid, man. I really appreciate it from him. I mean, I played O-line in high school, and it's worrying me big time. I know Trey Lance is mobile, but I don't want him running around for his life either. So we're gonna see, what happens. And Alex Mack, I mean, he's not getting any younger. I mean, I was really thankful for what he did for the team last year, but multiple times I saw him getting pushed back pretty hard too. It's not like he's playing at an all-pro level anymore. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how we fix this O-line situation.
Yeah, no doubt. I would imagine once they move Jimmy, they'll sign a veteran O-lineman. But I would also imagine they'll draft one. I hope though that they have not signed off on Banks and Moore as prospects. One, I really like Banks at Notre Dame. I thought Moore played excellent football in the preseason, and I think both those guys can play. So you draft a player, that's on your personnel department, but eventually it's on your coaching staff to coach them up and get good football out of them. And it's the Niner offensive line coach is going to be on the spot come July.
Now, was it the Houston Texans game? Something that, if you don't know, somebody in the chat might help us with this. But I remember Jalen Moore had a start where he looked pretty nice. I don't know if it was the Houston Texans game.
I don't remember what start it was because he pplayed. I think it had to be early in the year. He played in the preseason though. He started most of the games at left tackle, and he looked pretty good.
Yeah, and the reason why I mentioned the start in the regular season was because he actually played left tackle in the regular season game. He didn't look bad to me at all. I mean, if the referee's not calling, if the announcers aren't calling his name throughout the whole game, that's a great sign for no lineman. So hopefully he progresses and Aaron Banks progresses. I mean, the only time I saw Aaron Banks step on the field in the regular season was for, I believe, the field goal team on special teams, and that was it.
Well, I mean, think about this. I mean, you didn't have Trent Williams at the end of the year. They played Colton McKivitz over Jalen Moore. So, that's not a good sign, not a good sign at all that Jalen Moore could not play in a pivotal game while Colton McKivitz, a guy who they'd already put through waivers once, did get the start. So that's, that we have some indications that things are all not right with Banks and Moore, but we don't have anything official. But that's going to be one of the interesting subplots to watch this summer, because those guys should be, after the experience they got last year, on track to be starters. We'll see if it actually works that way.
Okay. So I said either the Colts or the Texans game, and CJ Ruthless said it was against the Colts when Jalen Moore started and did well. Okay, there you go. Thank you. And I'm all about the trenches. I started off playing D-line, moved to O-line, and Kyle Shanahan loves building the trenches. So we all hope this offensive line thing gets addressed. But to the other side of the trenches, we lose DJ Jones. I'm not sure if Arden Key took off yet or if he's looking to be with another team. We did gain Hassan Ridgeway. Now, I'm unfamiliar with this player from the Eagles. Have you scouted him by any chance and checked him out?
I've never scouted him, but I'm very familiar with him. I mean, he's a guy who's had some injuries. He can be moved in the run game. He's not a great run defender. He doesn't anchor against the run, but what he gives you is a little pass rush inside. So, they lose DJ Jones, who was really good at both the defending the run and the pass, but they're adding a good pass rusher, a good interior rusher. So I think that's important because, you need, as the NFL goes to more sub package, higher percentage sub packages, and you're seeing teams, putting 3 and 4 wide receivers on the field on a regular basis. Defenses are countering by playing a lot of nickel. You got to be able to rush the passer, and the 2-down defender who really is not a pass rusher and just plays the run, that guy's almost extinct. You almost have to have all 4 of those defensive linemen ready to rush the passer. You really can't afford the luxury of just saying, no, we're carrying a guy, but he never gets to the quarterback. He's just a run defender.
And you said that guy's almost extinct. I know I saw you tweet something. When I saw one of your older tweets about Michael Carter, who I was a huge fan of Michael Carter. I thought he was awesome. You think Michael Carter would have been relevant in today's NFL then?
Oh, he would have been. Michael Carter, when he came into the league, was fast. He was very fast and very athletic. And then, by the end, he had foot problems and leg problems and was just an incredibly strong player at the point of attack. But or a young Michael Carter in the mid-90s coming off the Olympic Games was he was like DJ Jones. I mean, he could really move, and he was great against the run.
And what I love about Michael Carter was that pick 6 where Charles Haley hit the living daylights out of Mark Rippon, and the ball flops out, lands right in Michael Carter's arms in that playoff game. Michael Carter runs to the end zone. That was a thing of beauty. It's a defensive lineman's dream, a lineman's dream to get to the end zone. So I was really happy for Michael Carter when he got that touchdown. I'll never forget that play. We got a question from Aaron from 49ers First Takes. Awesome, guys. Subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. He says, hey, Larry, why does Kyle fall in with certain players to their physical detriment, like Eli Mitchell or Debo, instead of rotating guys to keep them healthy? Yeah, I wanted the running backs rotated too. Great question.
Why does he not go with more of a rotation? Why does he go with his premier guys? Trust is a big factor, especially when you're talking about putting the ball in somebody's hands. The guys who touch the ball for you have the biggest impact on the game. And I think Kyle just, if he's got confidence in you, you're going to see the rock. And if he doesn't, you're not. And, the fact that guys like Mitchell and Debo are seeing the ball so much, is partially a statement of how much he trusts them, but it's also a partial statement of how little he trusts some of the other options he has.
Great question. And back to D-line, we did pick up Kerry Hyder, and we also lost Contavious Street. Do you think Ridgeway is better than Street? And what do you feel about the Hyder pickup?
I think Street's better than Ridgeway. He's stronger, but they're very similar. They both can get moved in the run game. Street's more explosive. Ridgeway may be a little bit faster. Same kind of player. They're going to struggle to anchor against the run. They're going to get up the field and put some heat on the quarterback. They're very similar. I personally like Contavious a little bit, but Contavious did have some bad film this year where he was getting moved at will in the run game. So, it's I would say it's probably, going from Contavious to Ridgeway is probably a lateral move.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Do you have time to take some calls? Because I'm gonna
Sure.
drop the link, and I think now's a great time to take the calls. But before
I
I
haven't
take the
taken any calls on my channel, so
oh, there you go.
look
So
at you,
we're
you're
gonna do it
blowing up
today.
with the
So
calls.
I just dropped a link in the chat for those who want to jump on. And yeah, if I don't know your name and you're not showing your face, guys, real talk. I hate to be the guy that does this, but there's a good chance I'm not gonna put you on because I've seen trolls hop on other people's channels, and we're gonna try to stay away from that. But for the most part, I know a lot of names that come on here, so I think we're gonna be good. And before we get to the calls and people start trickling in, we'll start taking calls. I wanted to ask you about the Charvarius Ward pickup. And what do you think about that move?
I mean, I like it because, in free agency, the one thing you want to stay away from more than anything is signing guys who are 32 to 34. The typically the free agents that I really believe you should invest in are the guys who are 25, 26, 27. Why? Because there's only so much football in each guy's body. And just because you're signing a 32-year-old guy with a name doesn't mean you're going to get that level of production out of him going forward. So I like the idea of going with younger guys in free agency. And Charvarius, I think, is 25 or 26. He's a good press man corner. He's going to be able to play outside and let Mosley play in the slot in, 3 wide receiver alignments. So, yeah, I like that pickup. A lot of people wanted to see him go with J.C. Jackson, but I get no problem going with Ward. He was definitely cheaper than Jackson, and he's a big-bodied guy, 6 feet, 6'1", pretty good athleticism. A guy who's kind of a late bloomer type who went undrafted coming out of college, and Dallas found him as an undrafted free agent, and they traded him in the end of camp in 2018 for an offensive lineman who eventually they cut. And Charvarius went to Kansas City and established himself as a fantastic corner prospect. So is he a Pro Bowler? No. Does he have elite ball skills and interception production? No. But he should be a guy that could be a plug and play starter though week 1.
And him jumping onto the 49ers defense, you might actually see a better version of them too, just with Bosa and that pass rush going. And who knows if we draft another edge to help out Bosa. Bosa does need, I think we need one, even though I like Omenihu and, some of the other guys in the mix, Jordan Willis, I just think we just need one more guy in the pass rush to help out. And I like the Ward pickup. I'm a fan of it. I saw plenty of clips of him, not shying away from guys like Stephon Diggs, from CD Lamb, some big name top guys, Jamar Chase at times. I saw him make plays against a few of those guys, a few of those big name guys, and he doesn't look like he's scared. And I've seen step for step with a lot of the bigger names. So Crypto Ryan's waiting in the back. I'm gonna try to bring you on, Crypto Ryan, but I think he just fizzled out. Hey, Crypto Ryan, if you're trying to come back on the stream, because I don't know what happened. It said devices not connected when I was trying to bring you up, but yeah. But again, I do like Charvarius Ward. He just seems like he's got confidence. He's got some swagger to him. Hey, great to have the youth and somebody with some decent speed. Got tired of seeing like the old cats that we had last year trying to fill in, and it was frustrating at times. So bringing some young blood, and like you mentioned, like why bring in an older guy? Like I think you're referring to Gilmore, right? Some Niner fans were up in arms at how we didn't get Gilmore.
I mean, Gilmore's a good player. I mean, but you're going to pay a higher price tag typically, and ultimately it's a young man's game, and it's a game of speed and explosiveness. And typically 25, 26-year-old players are going to give you more of that than a 31 or 32-year-old player. Not always, but often.
And back to somebody had a question earlier in the chat before we take the calls about Raheem Mostert leaving. It seems like Miami Dolphins is having like a dream offseason for a lot of 49er fans. A lot of 49er fans are all about let's make huge, deals in the offseason and bring in all these big name guys or all these really good pieces to the puzzle. And they got Tyreek Hill now. Obviously they brought in Lakin and, they got Mostert in the mix. What do you think about the whole Mostert departure to Miami Dolphins? and when the reason for the
Well, I mean,
49ers not keeping him.
he was a good Niner, no question. I mean, what he did in the playoffs in 2019 was pretty historic. Great speed, can get to the edge at will, but the combination of he runs upright, he's had some injuries. He's going to take hits, and it's a deep running back draft, and there's even some decent players in free agency. I just don't. I don't see I didn't see the need to extend for Raheem. I would have loved to seen him stay, but I think they can go into the draft and do really, really well. I tweeted out a video earlier today, and I put it out on YouTube about Saquon Barkley. I read a rumor on Bleacher Report's app this morning about how the New York Giants may move Saquon Barkley and that the 49ers may have interest in Barkley. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. He's got a lot of talent, and he's had a couple injuries, and he's still 25 years old. So I would love to see the 49ers acquire a guy like Saquon Barkley, especially if it's going to be for a mid or a late round pick.
Okay. Oh, so you're saying that it wouldn't take much to bring Saquon in, and
I think that he's got a $7.2 million cap hit.
Mhm.
So the Giants, I think, would like to get him off their books. And I think the 49ers could probably get him. They might be able to get him for a 5th or a 6th.
Okay, because I was going to ask you about any possible running backs in the draft. I was doing some mock drafts. I was just, ran across a couple of names. One, I don't know if you know who this guy is, but saw one guy that was more of like a speedy type running back that I thought maybe, hey, we might be able to throw him in the rotation, to help supplant the loss of Mostert, and that was Pierre Strong Jr. I'm not sure if you heard of him or if you have any other names.
Yeah, he's a home run hitter, big time runner, great straight line speed, one of the fastest backs in the draft, and pretty decent size. I love Pierre Strong. There's a lot of great backs. B.J. Baylor from Oregon State is a hell of a back. There's a bunch. I mean, you can find so many good running backs in this draft. Ty Chandler from North Carolina is a really good running back. But there's a ton of them. And, that's another reason why I wouldn't have paid, Raheem Mostert, because it's such a good draft for running backs. You might be able to find one even after the draft who could step in and help you. So the Niners under Shanahan have always had a good eye on, looking for running backs in the draft. And I would entrust them to, find somebody that they think fits their team in day 3 of the draft or even afterwards.
And the 49ers lost Richie James, who obviously we didn't really have on the field this year. Trent Sherfield departed via free agency. They re-signed Juwan Jennings, which I was really happy that they did so, because he definitely made strides during the season, towards the end of the season. And it's funny because I was like when I was watching all those Trey Lance highlights early on in this year's NFL season, I was noticing, like, who's this guy that he's throwing to the whole time, and it was Christian Watson. I used to tell my friends, like, hey, this guy's tearing it up at North Dakota State right now, even though Trey Lance isn't there anymore, and maybe this is a guy we could probably get. And this is back when people didn't even know who he was. At least my friends didn't know who he was at the time. All of a sudden, fast forward to the Senior Bowl and to the Combine, they see him run the 40, and all of a sudden now there's talk of Christian Watson possibly going into rounds 1 or 2, perhaps. And I don't think the 49ers going to go that route. If they had more higher picks, maybe they'd try to make that connection with Trey Lance. Ryan, I do see I'm going to put you on pretty soon. And, but are there any wide receivers that you think the 49ers might actually end up taking more of the lower rounds? Perhaps it's more of a luxury to get us a wide receiver. Like, I see guys like Danny Gray and a few other speedster types I wouldn't mind bringing on. But do you have any wide receivers do you think that the 49ers might take? Or
well, I definitely think you're thinking along the right lines. Danny Gray would be great. The SMU wide receiver runs like the wind. I mean, what the Niners need is they need a vertical threat. They've got the big bodied guy in Jennings. They've got Ayuk, who can, fearlessly run across the middle. Debo is another physical receiver. What they don't have is the burner, the guy who runs the coverage off. And Watson would be interesting. He ran, I believe the unofficial time was 4.2 something, right? I mean, I think officially he ran in the 4.3s. But if he's there at 61, I think they would consider him. I absolutely do. They need a receiver who has speed. There was a lot of speculation this week, maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but he then signed with Kansas City after the Tyreek Hill trade. But I like Danny Gray. I think that's a really intriguing one. There's a number of receivers. You tell me what you're looking for, and I can find you a receiver. But Danny Gray from SMU is a good one. I kind of there's a number of guys really. Derek Young, who plays for Lenore Ryan, is a guy to keep your eye on. And there's guys who, day three guys. Forget his name, his last name, but his first name's Tay. He plays for Oak State. Tay Thomas or Tay Wright. I forget exactly what his last name is, but he's a pretty good football player. There's a number of really good receivers. Reggie Roberson, who plays for SMU with Danny Gray. He's another guy that's really interesting. There's a bunch of receivers for sure. And, there'll be really good receivers available late in this draft.
All right. So we thanks for answering that question. Appreciate it. And I think Ryan is ready to come on. Is he? Okay. So we got Crypto Ryan. This guy, if you guys don't know who he is, he's the guy who I co-host a hip hop show with him. It's called Chillin' at the Spot. We run it on No Border Sports channel from time to time, and we alternate to my channel. Tonight we're doing it at 10 o'clock for all those hip hop heads out there. And let me bring him on. What's up, Crypto Ryan? No Crypto, how you doing, man? You're on with Larry Krueger. What do you got to tell him? Are you muted? Unmute yourself. We don't hear you. I think he told me he had some connection issues. So and then he said he was good in the chat.
What up, gentlemen?
I don't know if he hears
Larry,
you.
nice to see you again.
There he is. There he is.
Seen a couple of shows with you on.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see you moving now.
Hello?
There you go. You're good.
Yeah, we got you.
Send me backstage.
You're all good, bro.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hold
on.
There you go.
Go right ahead, bro.
Okay, but you can hear me, right?
Yeah, we got you.
You can hear me? Okay. Oh, I was just saying it's good to see Larry. I've seen a lot of people's shows. It's nice to see you out here on YouTube getting into this racket. What do you feel like has the team gotten better at all?
I don't think so. I think the team's gotten worse. I mean, towards the Niners since the end of the year. I mean, you can't lose DJ Jones and Laken Tomlinson. Replace them with, Kinlaw's got a bad knee. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. Aaron Banks wasn't even good enough to be activated as a backup last year, so we don't know how good he's going to be. So they lost two stalwarts, two powerhouses, arguably their physically strongest offensive and defensive linemen. So I think they've taken a step back. I'm not saying that I don't like any of their moves, but losing those two guys, I think is, and also, we don't know if the Super Bowl window's open with Trey. We know that he's a prospect that we like, and we know that there's, that he's likely to get better over the next couple of years. But I would have to say the 49ers, until I see otherwise, I would say that they finished the year with their Super Bowl window open, but that their Super Bowl window is closed because I think they'll move off of Jimmy. And even though they have a good roster, unless Trey shows us that, that he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, and in my mind, you aren't until you are. You're not like you are until you aren't. You know what I mean? You have to prove that you are a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. And if he does, then that window opens again. But until he does, I look at it as the Super Bowl window's closed, and then losing DJ and Laken, I think, hurts the team. So they might replace those guys with better guys in the draft, but right now, they got those guys move on. Hassan Ridgeway is not DJ Jones, and we don't know what Aaron Banks is. So I guess once we find out, what their roster really looks like top to bottom, we could say where they sit, but I would say no, they've regressed.
I feel the same way too. And you have this whole question mark with Kinlaw. Sure, it's great if he's healthy, but is he going to be around? Maurice Hurst, I liked what he did on the Raiders, but is he going to be around? So it's like you said, we don't know if we're going to be better. And it almost seems like right now on paper, we could be worse. We lost you, Ryan. I don't know if he's coming back, but it'd be nice to have him back. I thought there was going to be this queue because I've done other shows and there's plenty of queues. It's just me another time. Okay, here comes Ryan. He's back. Let me add you back. Okay, let me take the old Ryan off the stream and we should be good.
Oh, man.
Okay, there you go. We had two of you on the stream for a second. You're back. Hey, what else? Well, yeah, go ahead, man. Feel free to ask more questions or just add more insight on this.
The world doesn't need more than one of me.
Usually your streams are good when we stream together. I never have this problem with you, man.
Bro, I'm like, we got a show tonight or what? Because I don't know. But no, another thing I was wanted to ask you. 49ers are notorious bargain bin shoppers at this moment in time. You know what I mean? With Parag around there and Jed York not want to spend anything in free agency. Do you see any offensive linemen out there that are, bargain shoppers? You know what I mean? Like at the bottom of the bin there that are in the area where the 49ers are trying to spend money that you think they might be looking at or trying to pick up?
Well, the name that I like is Will Hernandez, who played at UTEP, played with the New York Giants. He's another younger free agent. He's a guard. He's a right guard solely. But this guy's so broad and so wide. He's such a wide body that, I mean, he's like a Nate Newton type wide body. And I just think that, he's a guy that is now teams are starting to look at him. He doesn't have elite movement skills, but he's very strong in the run game. Very powerful at the point of attack. I think the one thing losing Tomlinson, the one thing that you want to do if you're the 49ers is you do not want Trey Lance to feel A-gap pressure, right? So that means you got to get your centers and your guards better do a good job, because if you want a young quarterback to be skittish, just have, fill in the blank, Chris Jones, whatever interior, Aaron Donald, have those guys, bust through in the quarterback's face, and suddenly that quarterback has no confidence in the pocket. So Will Hernandez is a guy who I think's got enough power, enough heft to really anchor against big time strength defensive tackles. And he's still out there. And I think he's going to be signed for a reasonable deal. I saw that he was in Arizona, I think yesterday, visiting with them. I don't know if the 49ers have interest in him, but I would. To me, he's the guard in this market that I think, and by the way, there are no tackles. So there's no such thing as a bargain tackle.
Yeah.
Which is why they get paid so much. You got to
draft them.
And it's why they are all gone typically in the first couple rounds of the draft. So, that's going to be a challenge. The McGlinchey verdict on his quad is one of the biggest decisions facing this team, because if McGlinchey is not healthy, they're going to have to probably use a lot of their day two capital to move up for a tackle. And I would hate to see them do that after they invested 2 picks last year in Jalen Moore and Aaron Banks. But
what about
that's
School?
Where they're at. And they also have that's a good name too. They have Justin School coming back, but how much do they really like Justin School? Do they view him as a starter, or is he viewed as a the advantage that he has is that he's versatile enough to play, all 4 spots, but is he good enough to start at any would be the question I would have.
I was going to say about Will Hernandez. I remember when he was coming out, a lot of 49er fans were disgruntled that we didn't draft him, and he is a name out there. When I saw that his name was available, yeah, I saw that his name was available, and before, a few days ago, and I almost forgot about him until Larry reminded me. So let's see if we go that route. Any more questions? So for Larry, Ryan? Ryan, are you there, bro? Or are you caught up in the Matrix?
Maybe froze.
I never had this problem with him before. All right, so until we get him back.
But I just kind of want to counter
I hear you now,
that.
bro.
I think we do need to get a little more squattier. Oh, I guess I'm caught up in the Matrix. Right.
That's too funny, man. If anybody else comes on, we'll let you know. We'll bring them on here. In the meantime, I do have other questions up here, and if I don't get any more callers, that's fine. We can always wrap it up if you have to go. That's fine. One guy I wanted to mention, because we were talking about wide receivers earlier.
Yeah.
Was the acquisition of Ray McLeod, and obviously we've been lacking a return threat for the 49ers for quite some time. I love Brandon Ayuk, but God bless him. He's just not an NFL return guy as good as he was in college at doing it. And I don't want to see Debo returning kicks either. And you can touch up on Ray McLeod as a return game specialist, but do you think he can help us in our offense at all? Or
Well, he's interesting. I mean, he's got a little bit of ability. He's definitely fearless. I mean, he'll take it up in there. And that's a key component of being a good return man. He's got good wheels. That's good. My big concern with him are I think he was like 5 or 6 fumbles this year. And it just doesn't seem like we're the kind of team that's going to stomach 5 or 6 fumbles from a return guy. So I hope he doesn't, the fumbling doesn't, show itself early, because I get the sense that it won't take more than a fumble or two for the 49ers to, not want to put the guy back there. So hopefully he gets off to a good start, buys some good, equity with the coaching staff and the teammate and his teammates by holding on to the football. But yeah, I think it's, having a good punt returner is key. And it looks like they finally have one in Ray McLeod.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I even saw a play where I didn't really watch much of him in the Steelers. I don't watch much Steelers games, like I used to back when they had the bus. Jerome Bettis, who was one of my favorite running backs. I'm an old school running back guy. But with Ray McLeod, I did see one nice play where the Steelers ran him on like a jet sweep type of play against the Tennessee Titans. I believe he ran it for like 58 yards, almost had a touchdown, got caught up at the end. But it kind of reminded me of Debo, where he just had that angry running mentality and, just kind of like a pseudo wide receiver type running back. But then and I did hear from a few other people other than yourself about the whole fumbling issue too. So that does worry me a bit too. But again, I see us drafting a wide receiver, maybe, maybe two. We have a great guest, a good friend of mine calling in, waiting in the wings. And I know this guy way back from the days of tailgating at Candlestick Park. He ran the Red Zone tailgate at Polar in Candlestick Park. I just hit him up like 2 minutes ago on Facebook Messenger, crossing my fingers that this guy would jump on. This guy he's known a lot of 49er players over the years, and this guy's just a ball of fire. I have to bring him on right now. What's up, Tone? Where my Niners at?
Where my Niners at? How you guys doing, man?
Oh man, what do you got for Larry, man? What do you want to ask him?
Oh man, Larry, I used to wake up early in the morning, listen to the show, and from the Giants to the Niners to KMBR and the days of when I'll tell you a funny story. Brian Murphy had a diehard competition, and I sent in an old picture back in Candlestick, and I got to tailgate with Brian Murphy for the day. And we're in Candlestick Park, and then we part ways. We do like the first half on the field. It was Alex Smith, his rookie year, New Year's Day versus the Texans, when he threw his first touchdown pass. It took the whole season for him to do it. And I go and listen to the show the next day, and Brian goes, "Hey man, I was with Tone, and then I seen a brawl go down in the stands, and I look over, and Tone was in the stands, and it was a guy in front of us. He was a Texans fan. We had to tell him to sit down in section 2 of Candlestick Park. But those were fun days. Man, how are you? How's everybody doing? Bashar, thank you for having me, bro.
You're always welcome to come on here. I'm going to have you on here as a regular guest, man, because this guy has been on the local news. He runs Empire Road, which is the biggest tailgate at Levi's. His tailgate at Candlestick was legendary. So great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Huge fan, Larry, and I hope all is well, and keep doing a great job of, reporting Niner news the way that we used to hear it, where it was, truthful and just, even through the hard times, we get the real facts on KMBR.
Well, man, that's the only way that I would bring it, man. I can't sugarcoat it for I got to speak the truth, so I appreciate you listening. I appreciate all the listeners through the years, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. So what do you think? Are we going to trade? Are we going to get the Jimmy G trade, or are we going to have to release him? I mean, that's the big question, right?
I don't think they're going to release him. I don't think they want to release him. I think I think that ultimately the 49ers right now, they may wind up releasing him. But I think right now, the Niners know where that money's earmarked. That money's going to go to Bosa and Debo. And I think they would like to hammer out extensions with those guys, but they don't really need to sign them until they hit the field in July. So I think that's kind of the official deadline for, making a decision one way or another on Jimmy G. I don't think Jimmy's going to be in camp with the Niners, but it would not shock me if they made a decision right around camp. I personally would like to see a decision made either going into the draft or on one of the 3 days of the draft. And I think there's still a chance for that. But the market's dried up. I mean, who really realistically, I don't think Seattle wants him. And I think the Texans, might be interested if he were cut, but they want to take a look at Davis Mills. So unless the 49ers somehow get a deal cooking with the Carolina Panthers, and unless the 49ers are willing to take, first of all, Carolina can't take on Jimmy unless they move Darnold. So unless the 49ers want to take on Darnold and restructure Darnold and build up his value, and for that effort, I got to think that, Matt Rule is probably fired if he goes with Sam Darnold. And I think he knows it. Yeah. So I threw this out the other day. What do the 49ers get from Carolina if they take Sam Darnold and his $18 million guaranteed contract off Carolina's hands? If you look into the fine print on this, if Carolina cuts him, they owe him the full $18 million. So they can't cut him. And if they trade for Jimmy G, they can't pay Darnold 18 and Jimmy G 25. That ain't going to work. So they're really, the only option Carolina has is find somebody who can trade for Sam Darnold. If they trade Sam Darnold, they get a free, that's a free pass on the cap. So if the Niners are willing to give them Jimmy G, take Sam Darnold, I got to think that there would be a pretty good price in a draft pick or a player attached to Sam Darnold coming back to the 49ers. Now, is that a J.C. Horn type somebody who can play the corner right now? Is that the sixth pick in the first round? Is that a series of picks in future drafts? I don't know. But that to me is the whole question. Jimmy's either going to be released or I think traded to Carolina. And the big question is if the Niners aren't going to take Sam Darnold in that contract unless Carolina throws in a sweetener. And the only debate is how sweet of a sweetener does it have to be for the Niners to take a failed quarterback like Darnold, who's due $18 million. They could restructure him, maybe make it a 3-year deal, pay him $6 million a year. But even that would be pretty high to be, a backup quarterback. They do have Sudfeld. They're paying him $2 million. Most teams pay their backup somewhere between 8 and 10. So if they gave Darnold a 3-year extension and they spread his money out, his 6 and Sudfeld's 2 would add to 8. So I could see that, but there would still have to be a huge draft pick or player, attached to Darnold to make that attractive from the Niner perspective. If that happens, I could see that. Otherwise, I would not be shocked if the Niners cut Jimmy G in July and use that money on Bosa and Debo and just got down the road then.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation where if we look at Carolina being the only team, right? I was thinking maybe something happens, they carry him on, week 1 until an injury in the NFL, and then dangle him for maybe a 4th and a 5th rounder. I don't know if they'd even get a 3rd at this point because it's just really. I think there's a little bit of pride attached to, they were hoping for a 2nd. And now, what is that value and the injury to the shoulder? He has to be cleared. I think it's going to be before training camp. So it is going to be interesting. But I do say that there has to be some sort of money freed up in order to, make some moves prior to the draft. Otherwise, we're just going to be doing these smaller contracts with, 2nd and 3rd string players. It's hard to not see us be so aggressive as I guess when we make it to the championship game and you're thinking, okay, we're a couple of cornerbacks away. Maybe we got to patch up our offensive line. We have to get something done, but it looks like it's going to all come down into the draft.
And they do have, I think, 9 picks. I mean, they don't have a number 1. Yeah. If they could I'll say what's intriguing to me is that even if the 49ers had to include future draft picks of their own going back in a trade like that. If they somehow could nab that 6th pick overall, they could then trade down from that spot 2, 3, 4 times and possibly accumulate some of the draft capital that they just lost on trading for Trey Lance. So to me, that's intriguing. If somehow, some way you could figure out, and I don't know that Carolina's, how desperate is Carolina to move off Sam Darnold? They should be very desperate because if Matt Rule goes with Darnold, he's likely to get fired at the end of the year. But we really don't have the answer to that question.
Right. And we also kind of need a backup quarterback at the same time. So if there can be a restructured, deal with Darnold, I can see that possible.
And also, I mean, if you're Kyle Shanahan has a lot of confidence. He might look at Sam Darnold and say, you know what? And think about it from Darnold's perspective. Darnold now has been with the Jets, bombed. Now he's been in Carolina, bombed. His career in the NFL is dangling by a thread, and he knows it. So if I'm Sam Darnold, hell yeah, I want to be on Kyle Shanahan's, on Kyle Shanahan's roster. And hell yeah, I would renegotiate my deal, even if it wasn't the most favorable renegotiation for me personally, because I need to go where a quarterback guru is there with an offense that works, just so I can save my NFL career. So I think Darnold should want to come to Shanahan. I think Shanahan probably believes that in his scheme, they could take Darnold from a no-value guy to a guy that some other team may see value in. They liked him a year ago. They probably still like him. And as far as, Trey Lance, there's probably going to be a third quarterback. I don't know that there's somebody in the draft that they like, but it's not a great year for quarterbacks in the draft. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of factors that favor the Niners getting something for Jimmy. So I don't think they'll be forced to release him, but it's going to take either a Houston situation or a Carolina situation, because I don't think Seattle wants him, and I don't think the Niners want to trade him there.
Right.
All right. So, hey, Tone, I appreciate it, man. We're going to wind down and wrap things up pretty soon, but we are going to take one more caller at least, unless somebody else pops in. Are you up to stick around for about 10 more minutes, Larry?
Sure. Sounds good, man. Okay.
Hey, Tone, great having you on. I really appreciate it. We're going to do this again, man. And I got my hip hop show too. I'm going to have you on my hip hop show, and you got to talk to Jose Santana about that.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah. You guys, it was awesome, man. Glad everybody's doing well. Looking forward to this draft. Heading to Vegas for this one. I'm going to be a little anxious in the first round, but Friday, Saturday should be fun.
Hey, have fun in Vegas.
Oh yeah, have fun in Vegas. Hey, great to have Tone on here. Somebody was waiting in the wings and they were going to take the call. I don't know what happened to them, but I'm going to pop the link up back in the chat. I got Don Suave. He likes to call in. He might call in. I see him sitting around the chat. If you're ready, Don Suave, you can call in. Somi tried to call in. I don't know what happened. You were sitting there waiting in the studio to come on here. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Oh, that you're catching flies there, huh?
Yeah. I remember bright lights.
Oh yeah, I don't have any in my room, but over in Roseville where I live, we have flies that hop in because it gets pretty hot out here. Okay, so we got Somi waiting here. I'm going to call him D Nasty. You can fill in the blanks when you read his name and say it however you want it, but let's bring him on. And he's kind of controversial, I think. I don't know. Let's see. What's up, Somi?
Hey, Pose.
What's up?
You got some connection issues, bro. I know where you're at, but we don't hear you.
But Larry, what do you think about the trade aspirations for the Jimmy G thing? I missed the early part about it, but what did you think about that?
Well, yeah, we just kind of hit it. I mean, Houston, Seattle, and Carolina are the last three teams that are really possible here. And I can't see him going to Seattle. So to me, it's about, does Houston want to trade for him? And what are they offering? Does he want to play in Houston? They're kind of a bad team. Same thing with Carolina. Does he want to play in Carolina? Carolina's got Sam Darnold making $18 million. There's no way that Carolina can trade for Jimmy and have Sam Darnold. So they're either going to have to find a three-way deal where they can pawn Sam Darnold off on somebody, or the Niners are going to have to take Sam Darnold. And I can't see the 49ers taking on Sam Darnold at $18 million and then restructuring and guaranteeing him dollars into the future unless they get a sweetener. And Carolina doesn't have a second or a third. And I don't think a fourth would be sweetening it the deal enough. So
forget this year. How about next year?
Well, there's next year's picks, or they also have a top 10 pick this year. And I was just saying that
we're not getting that.
Well, they're probably not getting that, but how desperate's Carolina? I mean, Carolina's pretty desperate. I mean, the Niners don't need Carolina. Carolina needs the Niners. The Niners have a starting quarterback that could take the place of Sam Darnold. This draft has no quarterbacks that could take Sam Darnold's spot. And if Matt Rule doesn't replace Darnold, he's probably fired. So
Matt Rule is fired, definitely. And I think that's why it's a desperate move.
It's a tough question.
I agree with you.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see if the Niners would be willing to take Sam Darnold in a trade. And if so, what does Carolina give the 49ers for that? Because that is going to be, I think, a pretty high price tag. Niners are not taking on $18 million Sam Darnold without some real sweet.
Well, wouldn't the caveat be we're just unloading his salary? Like, forget the draft pick at this point. Forget the compensation. I just want the salary deduction, right? Why the salary relief? Isn't that just like the end all be all at this point? Forget the compensation. Let's just get rid of him so we can have the clean books. The 26 point whatever million without the $7 million salary cap hit that we would do if we cut him.
They ultimately will do that. They won't go into the year with the quarterback. I don't believe that. I think they're going with Trey, so they're not going to go with Jimmy's $26 million. But I don't think they want to just give him away because they understand that he's an asset. So, but yeah, if there was a free agent out there today that they really wanted, they might consider cutting him. But I don't think there is. I think that money is earmarked for Bosa and for Debo, and those guys' extensions are going to be handed out on day one of training camp. So that is really the official deadline on Jimmy G is the beginning of camp.
Thank you. Hey, real quick, Larry, I know Bashar's quick. I know you guys are short for time, but you were my favorite host on KMBR. I actually look forward to talking because you're the only one who actually talked Niners. Everyone talks Giants baseball. I know you guys are force-fed into talking like that, but I really appreciated you, and I wish you the best. I know you're on podcasts and everything. I'm going to always follow you, but I wish you the best, and I hope for the future you can latch on to 95.7 or something else. But your talents are wasted with KMBR, in my opinion. But thank you for your correspondence. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate that.
Thanks for sure. You guys have a good night.
All right, take care, Selmy. Good to have you, man. All right, and we're gonna make this really quick because I don't want him to wait. This is gonna be our last call, guys. Gonna wrap it up. We have Don Suave, my really good friend from the San Jose days, back when I lived in San Jose. Great dude, friend of the family. How you doing, Dwan? And what do you got for Larry?
Oh, hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
BZ, Bashar, thanks for having me on. Larry, I'm a big fan. Quick question, Larry. If Tart catches that interception against the Rams, do we go ahead and beat the Bengals and win the Super Bowl with Jimmy G? What do you think?
No. First of all, I don't think the Niners would have won that game even if Tart makes that pick.
Ooh, okay.
Because they had two full offensive possessions after that. They never even got one first down. So I think Tart, the people who blame Tart, it's low-hanging fruit. I mean, we all saw the pick, and it was an obvious screw-up.
Right.
And Tart knew it. I love the fact that, man, he owned it. I'm a big fan of Tart, but he should have made that pick, but I don't think they win that game even if he did.
Yeah. No, I like that he owned it too. Yeah, that was pretty big of him.
I mean, that is big. That was big.
Yeah.
You know how many guys? Heck, LeBron James doesn't even show up for the post game when the Lakers lose.
That's right.
I mean, he seriously, he's
so
there, basking in the adulation when they win, but when they lose, his ass is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
It's so nice that Tart, basically went to the press conference, owned it, didn't dodge, didn't run, didn't duck, basically said, you know what? I screwed up. It's on me. And to me, I got nothing but respect for that guy. Nothing but respect.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Tart for doing that, by the way, because we all know about LeBron and sportsmanship. Go ahead.
Yeah. Larry, let me sneak in this last question.
Yeah.
Okay. Kaepernick is still working out there.
Right.
What do you think about sneaking him for a Q3? Do you think that is in the realm of possibilities? Like I was reading that 5 teams are interested or asking questions about him. What are your thoughts?
Here's the thing about Kaepernick is that the national media, who only followed him just kind of loosely, see a quarterback that went to the Super Bowl and are asking, look at all these other bums who are getting shots. How come Kaepernick doesn't get a shot? But if you really look closely at Kaepernick and his career trajectory, he had trended down 3 years in a row. Yeah. I think his final 18 games, he was like 3-15 as a starter. A good touchdown to interception ratio, but not a good win percentage. I just think that Kaepernick, didn't work on his game. I think he was incredibly athletic, but I don't think he loved the process of football. And I think, because they had the playbooks, in the digital form, I think the coaching staff had a mechanism where they could tell how many hours you were spending working on the game plan and reviewing it. And they kind of saw that he was not as into it as, he should have been. So I think that's really, and I think the word of that got around the league. So it is interesting. His last competitive snaps were, I think, January of 2017. I can't think of anybody who's ever sat out that long and come back. But personally, I would like to see him get an opportunity, because I think, this what you would have been if you had just gotten a shot, that needs to be put to rest. Give him a shot. Let him show if he's got the goods. Let him show it. If he doesn't have the goods, let him show that. But I think it would be in the NFL's best interest to see Kaepernick back out there. I know people would argue that and say, oh my God, the NFL wants no part of him. But I really think that the NFL looks bad right now, because I think most people believe that they worked behind the scenes and colluded to keep him out of the league. In reality, I don't think that's actually the case. I think a bunch of NFL GMs all reached the same conclusion, that his skills had declined and he wasn't an improving player. But let's see it. Let's see it so we can put this to bed, and so that the people who are saying, "Oh my God, he was a star quarterback," if he is, let's see it. And maybe the guy did some great things. I mean, let's be honest. I was there in New Orleans and I really believe, guys, that if Harbaugh hands him the ball on 1st and goal from the 5, instead of throwing fades to Crabtree, that they would have won that Super Bowl. And then things would have been quite a bit different. But it didn't happen that way. But at this point, I'm rooting for him to get another shot. I hope it's in Seattle. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm rooting for it. I'd love to see it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Larry, for taking my questions. BG, thanks for having me on. Take care, guys.
You're always welcome to come on here. Great to have you on, man. Take care, Javier. All right. Hey, Larry, I'm just saying, I want to say this. I thank you for the bottom of my heart. I've been watching you for years, listening to you for years, and this is such a pleasure. You pretty much made my week with this appearance on my show, on my channel. Just want to throw that out there.
Hey, man, it's fun. I love talking ball, and if people are out there and they're catching me on YouTube for the first time, check me out. My channel is called The Krueg Show, Krueg Show, and subscribe. We got a couple thousand subscribers. Put out a great video today that got thousands of views, and just having a lot of fun. So hit my channel and subscribe. And if you want me on your channel, just reach out and ask. I'm pretty much open to doing it.
this guy with it, even though despite the fact that he's developed such a name and he's been all over sports media, he's so gracious to do collabs with people. I've seen him all over YouTube, and within a blink of an eye, his channel is growing. So if you guys haven't subscribed to his channel yet, click the description box of this video. All the links to his social media are there. His YouTube channel is there. And one more shout out from the chat that I want to pop up on the screen. Fellow YouTuber, great guy, Kel's Chronicle. Shout out to you, bro. I know you're a little busy right now, but otherwise I would have had you call in. But hey, great to have you on. Shout out to Swan Song. I see you there, bro. Low the Truth put out a really nice comment, so I gotta put him up there. Low the Truth 05 says Bashar, Larry, OG, and Tone killing it. So respect to you, bro. And yeah, man, awesome show, dude. Awesome show, Larry. Again, I'm more than thankful to have you on. And we're going to wrap things up, guys. We had a lot of fun. Hopefully the 49ers find a way to patch up their holes in the draft, maybe in the free agency. Maybe Jimmy gets moved sooner than we think. I don't know. It's not looking likely. It looks like we're going to have to wait it out, like you said, Larry. But with that said,
hey, hit me after the draft, man. Hit me after the draft.
Oh, I'd love to have you on post-draft.
I'll have lots of opinions on the guys in the draft.
We'll do that.
Hit me after the draft, and we'll break it all down. We'll do another one.
Oh, I'm more than willing to do that. Yeah. So again, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you guys being on. Thanks to Larry once again for watching 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. So keep repping those 49ers and stay 49er minded. Peace. Come on, 49er faithful, let's get it.
Because it's 49er mind.
We gotta do this one time for the Empire.
It's 49er mind. It's 49er mind.
We gotta get that brick by brick done quick.
49er mind.
Yeah, yo, we can't listen to them haters, man.
49er mind.
We from the Bay.
49er mind.
We them San Francisco 49ers.
49er mind.
We got that red and gold blood inside us.
49er mind.